So, good day, everyone. This is the continuation of the discussion for the topics that we have for the final coverage. So, last Wednesday, we ended up here in the Mountain of Difference, Lumad, in early colonial period, wherein we have already discussed this. This means earliest expedition to the Philippines, wherein they have reached Mindanao in 1526. Next is that the reason or the idea of colonizing was because of the extraction of the natural resources so that they can get more revenue. And part of it is that colonization was in the hands of the missionaries. And lastly, aside from this extraction of natural resources, one of their primary aim was to evangelize. So basically, they have attempts to convert, especially targeting the indigenous people and children into their religion, which is before, if we are to talk about the history, and that is about the Christianity. Next is that we have here that Lumads and Moros in the island of Mindanao have long been facing dislocation from the homelands during Spanish proselytization and colonization. So it is not just about evangelization or to evangelize those targeted individuals or people, which are the indigenous people and the children, but also they wanted to convert or make an attempt to convert the beliefs and the opinion as well as the behavior of those indigenous people to include the children, wherein the condition was intensified when the new colonizer came, which are the Americans, where policies were established to initiate a type of colonization that severely impacted Mindanao's indigenous population. So, meaning to say that when the Spanish colonial period or the Spanish era uh, has already been natapos na ang kanilang tawag the colonization of the Spanish or the Spaniards, I mean. So there comes our new colonizer. During the American colonization period, we can see that they have established policies wherein in this era they have changed the landscape and they altered the history by transforming Mindanao into a huge agricultural plantation. Wherein, if we are to recall what we have discussed regarding the plantation economy, it was stated there that over the years, regarding or in line with this agricultural plantation, we have as well the this plantation economy, it has expanded rapidly. And wherein we have seen new agricultural lands investment that are proliferating in almost every region in the island or in the Mindanao region. So meaning to say is that this agricultural plantation has transformed Mindanao. The agricultural plantation, because of this, it transformed Mindanao into a huge agricultural plantation wherein an effective machinery was set up. So they are no longer using the old, perhaps let's say there is already changes in terms of the machines that we are using, the instrument that we are utilizing in terms of these type of industry for the agricultural plantation, followed by educational and religious penetration that actually completed the conquest of Mindanao or the colonization of Mindanao. So it means that aside from the Spaniards during their colonial period, wherein they have evangelized those indigenous people and children into converting them or making an attempt to convert them into yung Christianism or the Christianity, there is also another religion that was introduced or that penetrated their community. And that's actually the last discussion or topic that we have for the Lumad in early colonial period. Now let's move on to generating energies in Mount Apo. And I guess everyone knows where is Mount Apo or what is Mount Apo. And Mount Apo is the highest mountain here in the Philippines. So Mount Apo, this is an ecological and political sensitive site being sanctuary of Southeast Asia's biodiversity, wherein we can see here some rare fauna and floras in this area. This is home to indigenous people and shelter for armed insurgents. So when we talk about armed insurgents, those are the people or person who revolts against civil authority or our government. So In line with this, in the discussion that we have relating to generating energies in Mount Apo, we have here the PNOC or PNOC, the Philippine National Oil Company. They built 250 megawatts geothermal power plant at the Mount Apo National Park. So the project aimed to reduce government dependence on imported oil and fuel in its industrialization program, meaning to say, instead of us relying or being dependent with regards to the import or importation of oil and fuel, we wanted to have our own, wanted to become independent in terms of the supply for oil and fuel. And with regards to this geothermal power plant, this also has provided us, especially in terms of the supply for electricity to Kidapawan and what you call this, from Davao to Kidapawan City. So it has already supplied electricity in those areas. However, here, Mount Apo is among the last forest stands in the country where diverse rare flora and fauna are found, like what I have mentioned in the previous slide, that this is where, diba, ito siya, that is a sanctuary of the Southeast Asia's biodiversity. And then it was feared that this geothermal project would lead to clear cutting of this forest and would encourage encroachment of the park, meaning to say that those who opposed, because they have issues or problems in terms of this project, the geothermal power plant, because they fear that it would lead to clear cutting, meaning to say that they are going to cut down trees and as well would encourage encroachment. It means that it would encourage or draw the attention of those intruders. And who are those intruders? Like what we have discussed in the previous topic that we have, part of them are those are the business people, private individuals, those investors. So it would really draw attention because of this geothermal power plant project. Despite, however, the massive protests of non-government organizations, that are the NGOs, church, both national and international, the PNOC was able to manage to transform the operation into an environmentalist to pursue its project. It means to say that they have been able to uh, convert it, or they have transformed it, operating relating to an environmentalist. So it means that uh, they are already trying to consider the environment. And part of it is that they have been especially addressing the issues or concerns about the environment. So they wanted to protect, even though that they are going to have this geothermal power plant project, but they wanted, or they have transformed it so that it would not lead to any other environmental issues or problems in the long run, so that they can be able to pursue this kind of project. Next is that part of the issues, or they have the struggles or the problems that they have encountered, is that the Manobo tried or act to retrieve Mount Apo history and territory grew intense. So that is one of those issues that they have. And lastly, and the ultimate resolution of all issues in the project, it led to integrated efforts that would transform the Mount Apo geothermal project into a model for sustainable development, because this geothermal power plant project is also an example that we are developing, meaning to say that because of this, knowing that the aim for this one, or the goal for this, is for us to not rely or not to become dependent in terms of importation or with the other countries in terms of the oil and fuel or the supply for that. And what is also good about this one, like I have mentioned, is about the supply of electricity to Davao to Kidapawan City. So next class is that we have here our last topic for the final coverage, which is the peace agreement in Mindanao. And I guess if you are watching before, a few years ago, if you are watching news in the television, if you might have heard news over the radio or in the social media or in any other platform. So they have been talking about peace agreement in Mindanao. So people in Mindanao have been suffering from the effects of violent conflict for over 30 years and displacement of an estimated 2 million people. So even before, or let's see, during like what we discussed earlier, 'di ba? Or in the previous slide, it was already mentioned that even during the colonial period in the Spanish, starting from the Spaniards, colonization next to the American, there were already the Lumads and Moros, those indigenous people, they have already been facing the dislocation from their homelands, this displacement of this a lot of people, an estimated of 2 million people. Now, what is the reason why we have these kinds of conflicts, those violent conflicts? So here are the core problems. Number one, incidences of local clan-based or group violence or RIDO because of this different occurrences or incidents about this one, or violence between these local clans. That's the reason why we are also experiencing conflicts. Next is that the weakness of Missouri government and instability to control the problem. So if you might not know, Norm Suarez is a Moro Filipino revolutionary and politician, the founder and leader of the Moro National Liberation Front. So since his governance or leadership is no longer that strong, now there is no longer control as well. It is not already stable, the control for violence. So it means that they no longer have that kind of leader. They are no longer perhaps listening. No one is already leading there, the Moro National Liberation Front. And lastly, this underground economy marked by the proliferation or rapid increase of illegal drugs, unlicensed firearms, and control over small-scale and unlicensed mining activity and smuggling. So because of these illegal activities that are being conducted in those areas here in Mindanao, this is the reason why we are having these different kinds of conflict. Why people here, or some people, especially the indigenous people, they are experiencing this kind of displacement, dislocation, as well as facing different problems and struggles, or this suffering from violent conflicts. Next is that this condition resulted because of these core problems. It resulted to have peace agreement between our government of the Republic of the Philippines and the Moro National Liberation Front in 1996. So it already started a peace agreement, the peace talks. They have already different proceedings, discussions about peace in between our government and the MNLF. Because as you can see, class, diba? The effects because of these different violent conflicts, people are suffering. It could either be because of, let's say, for example, they are suffering of poverty, no access in terms of those social services. There are a lot of people that are being harmed. There are maraming nasugatan. There are people because of this conflict between the government and MLF, or because of this communist groups, there are people that are being affected, their livelihood, their living, where they live. So wherein because of these situations or scenarios, it resulted to peace agreement. Now, part of the peace agreement are these peace building strategies that should be included. Number one, include consideration of local clan and armed rebellion to interact during the process. It means that it will not only be limited to those MNLF or those communist groups, but as well as the local clan or the armed rebellion. They should participate. They should interact in the process of this, what we call peace agreement or peace talks. Involve a closer exploration of the informal economy and the contestation of political influence that brings control of the economy. Meaning to say that we are going to explore this economy, diba? What the type of economy that they have, as well as those leaders, those political leaders, who, because it will really influence the people there, as well as who are those the kind of leadership. They're going to talk about it, the governance in that area or in Mindanao. Next is that enable the true nature of political and economic exclusion to be unpacked and effectively addressed through dialogue proceedings. Because again, di ba, there are times that they are already being excluded. So now, they should be included in this what we call true nature of political and economic, politics and in the economy. So it should be addressed during their dialogues, during the proceedings or discussions. It should be addressed there. And lastly, draw in the private sector, since this sector is the key to the delivery of jobs and income. So, the government, it is already, di ba, na we already know that the government would really provide some jobs, some different trainings or what. However, this private sector would be a great help in terms of providing jobs and profit or income to our people here in Mindanao, especially for the indigenous people or in those people in those indigenous communities, since they are also part of our society and they also contribute to our economy, since there are a lot of private individuals or businessmen who are doing who have different businesses put up here in the Philippines or specific to Mindanao. And lastly, a need to a better future for Mindanao and its people is the impetus or the force that makes something happen or happen more quickly for the formulation of the Peace and Development Framework 2011 to 2030, which is spearheaded by the Mindanao Development Authority. Again, the purpose or the aim or what this peace and development framework is trying to achieve is the betterment of the future of the Mindanaoans, those people living in Mindanao. And lastly, the adoption of the Bangsamoro Organic Law was hoped to hold so the Mindanao can achieve an everlasting peace. So regarding this Bangsamoro Organic Law, so this was also known before as the BBL or the Bangsamoro Basic Law. So it was officially designated already as a law or a Philippine Law Republic Act number 11054. So that is a Philippine law that provided for the establishment of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, and I guess you have heard about BARM. So what is the main purpose of BOL or Bangsamoro Organic Law? The purpose of this organic law was to establish a political entity, provide for its basic structure of government in recognition of the justness and legitimacy of the cause of those Bangsamoro people and the aspirations of Muslim Filipinos and all indigenous cultural communities that are in the BARM or the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. So for this one, this CAB who signed it, because diba, there has already been a lot of peace agreements, peace talks, discussion about this one, but this was signed during the administration of President Rodrigo Duterte. So it was signed, the landmark BOL on July 26, 2018. This law replaces, kasi before it was called ARMM, the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. However, this law, the RA number 11054, it replaces the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao um, with its new name, BARM or the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, which would have a greater fiscal autonomy, a regional government, parliament, and justice system. So that is class. So this is one of the hope of the many Filipinos so that it will hold and it can achieve the everlasting peace here in Mindanao. So that is the last topic class that we have for the final coverage. And on the following week or next week, we are going to have a quiz on those topics that we have discussed. And lastly, I am going to give you over the weekend or by next week your assignment or for your oral graded recitation, the documentary. So I am still going to group you. I'm still going to divide you into groups, and then I am going to provide you the topic because I am planning to add additional topic. It will not just be about the life and struggle of indigenous people in the Philippines, but I am planning to add more. So that's it, class. And I have also uploaded this one. Yesterday, I have communicated with you that I have already uploaded the copy of the material and this presentation in your Google Classroom. And make sure to study that in advance. And that's all for today. Thank you so much and good morning, everyone.